Hello friends and welcome to V Winner's Edge. In this video, I'm going to cover in a highlight kind of manner a very important topic. But before I go into that topic, let me tell you why am I going to do that, right? So I've talked to many people and I've heard from them that they find linguistics very tricky and difficult. I repeat, many of students, many of people who are preparing for various kind of examinations, they find linguistics very difficult, very tricky. They have their own reasons. Personally, I find linguistics very interesting, very scientific, you want, and very formulaic. If you understand the formula, you can decode the whole thing. Because as you know, linguistics is a science. So I thought that whatever my insight is, whatever my experience with linguistics is, with that I will bring you this science in a very easy manner. And in that series, today I have decided to talk to you about the science of sounds, that is phonetics. So today we'll talk about phonetics in a very simple manner. It's not a very detailed kind of thing. You may say that it's an introduction to a very interesting way of, or very easy way of understanding phonetics. Fine. So traditionally, when we start talking about the sound system, when we start talking about phonetics, human sound systems, that is not all kind of sound systems, then we generally begin with the one thing that causes all the impetus and all the energy that produces the sounds. That is the airstream mechanisms. So let's begin with that. So this is the first topic, airstream mechanism. If you break it into its parts, then, and let's look at it from the way it happens physiologically. So air is outside, and that outside air through our nose, nostrils, that is, and through our mouth, it enters our body and it reaches the portion above this in the throat called pharynx. From there it crosses through this thing, the voice box, the Adam's apple, you can touch it, larynx. There it goes to the windpipe, this thing called trachea. From trachea it goes downwards, branches left and right, go to the two lungs, right? And in the lungs then oxygen is absorbed and so on and so forth, very physiological process. But the same physiological process is also used for producing sounds. Now, how and why? So the how is that there are three kinds of airstream mechanism, and they are controlled by lungs, that is the pulmonic airstream mechanism, the glottis in this larynx area, glottalic airstream mechanism, and the soft palate inside roof of the mouth, the end of the hard palate, the soft palate area that can go up and down and can close or open the nasal cavity thing, and the back of the tongue together. So they also cause a cause of closure and then opening called velaric airstream mechanism. I repeat, lungs, pulmonic airstream mechanism, glottis, glottalic airstream mechanism, and velum or soft palate, velaric airstream mechanism. There are three kinds of airstream mechanism, but because we are talking about phonetics in English, so we will talk about one, that is the pulmonic airstream mechanism. In all the three airstream mechanisms, there are two ways of producing sounds while taking the air in or while pushing the air out. That is the ingressive or egressive airstream mechanism. And because in English, all these sounds are produced, I repeat, in English, sounds are produced by pulmonic egressive, that is going out, airstream mechanism. Therefore, we'll focus on lungs, pulmonic egressive, going out, airstream mechanism. Okay, we'll only talk about that kind of production of sound through air that goes out because of the action of the lungs. How the action of the lungs, that is the question. So the walls of our chest, they put pressure on the walls of the lung, and then the walls of the lung initiate this process of throwing the air out, and therefore pulmonic egressive airstream mechanism gets its initiation or energy from the walls of the lung. Glottic airstream mechanism, although we are not going to the detail yet, glottic airstream mechanism, it gets its energy from the closed glottis. Glottis is not actually a body part. Glottis is the opening between two vocal folds or vocal cords. So in our throat, from front to back like this, joined at the front and bifurcated towards the back, there are two vocal folds. Now air passes from lungs, then air comes here up to the larynx, and then air passes through the vocal folds. Now this passage between the vocal folds is called glottis. I repeat, passage between the vocal folds is called glottis. When the glottis is closed, then the air is trapped. And then from that closed glottis, the impetus for glottic airstream mechanism comes. And from closed velum, that is when the back of the tongue goes up and touches the soft palate, so there is a closure formed. From that closed velum is the impetus from velaric airstream mechanism production sound comes. Okay, so that is about the impetus. Now we'll talk a little bit about systems of organs of speech, and then I will end this video. Let's keep it short, right? So again, this is called the respiratory system from lungs up to larynx. So the lungs, the bronchi, the trachea, and the walls of the chest, together they will be called the respiratory system, that with which we respire. Then this voice box or the larynx thing is called the phonatory system, used for phonation. Okay, and then finally we've got above here, when you come beyond pharynx, so starting from glottis coming up to the lips, this whole box thing is called the articulatory system. In the articulatory system, then sorry, in the phonatory system, you have the whole larynx including vocal folds, the opening between which is called glottis. So that differentiates between voiced and voiceless sounds. Now and also produced the glottal stop. But then we are basically, in production of most of the sounds, we are basically interested in the articulatory system. If you go from front backwards, then you've got upper lip, upper teeth, lower teeth. The ridge behind the teeth is called the teeth ridge or alveolar ridge. So the alveolar ridge. Then when you go towards the bottom of the mouth, you've got the whole tongue functioning. When you go towards the roof of the mouth, you have got alveolar ridge, then the hard palate, then the soft palate. The soft palate ends into uvula. So this whole thing up to uvula, after which you have got the pharyngeal opening, pharynx. So this whole structure, whole box kind of structure, is called the respiratory system. And behind this whole cavity is called the oral cavity or oral passage, the passage of mouth. And the nasal cavity, from here the tube goes down, and the nasal and oral cavity meet towards the base of the tongue, behind the base of the tongue, and then air goes down, and so on so forth. So windpipe and food pipe, they run parallelly, one front and one back. And the covering at the opening of the windpipe is called epiglottis. So when it is closed, the food enters your food pipe. When you speak and accidentally food enters from an open epiglottis into your windpipe, then you involuntarily you start coughing. So this is the whole system. The respiratory system, it forces the air out. The phonatory system produces phonation, that is whether the sound is voiced or voiceless. And the articulatory system then gives the voice its final shape, articulates it. I hope I could make it easy for you. I'll stop it here. And the next topic when we cover, we'll continue from this point onwards. Thank you very much.